stitches on the Baby Lock Jazz 2 that are ideal for creating that clean professional seam finish that we're all looking for when we're creating a garment or any other type of project. The 2 stitches that we're going to look at are actually stitch number 14 and stitch number 19. For this exercise, we're going to use stitch number 14. So using the stitch selector, we will find stitch number 14 so that it sits in that window. When we look at stitches number 14 and 19, you'll notice that they're in that gold band. We're going to need to change our stitch length, and we're going to need to set that at that 4 setting, which is gold, for stretch. And we're going to need to adjust that needle position to that 7, again, gold, for stretch. Now again, I'm always about making sure that my needle always stops in that down position. Now there's one foot or presser foot that we're going to be using for this type of technique, and it's designed specifically for this. If we take a look at this foot, you'll notice that there is this bar that sits right there, and what that bar does is it helps float or carry the threads to the fabric edge. Then there's a guide, or the toe extends out, forming a guide that where we're going to place our fabric edge so that it's in the correct position for this stitch. I'm going to change my feet out, and I'll place my fabric underneath so you can kind of see how the fabric sits against that guide. The fabric edge sits against that guide. So you can see there's my guide, there's my fabric edge. We're not worrying about any of the markings on the needle plate because our fabric is being placed against that guide. Now as we stitch, you'll notice that that thread, and I'm going to pull the needle up so that we can take a little closer look at that. You'll notice that that thread is being carried across that bar that sits in there. And as I said, what that does is it helps float or carry that thread to the fabric edge so that it can encase that fabric edge, giving us that professional clean finish. So what I always have to watch when I'm using this presser foot is to make sure that my fabric edge is there. I think we always tend to want to watch the needle, but I need to ensure that my fabric is always against that edge. If it's not, then what will happen is the stitch won't encase the fabric edge. And this is denim. You can use this on denim, knits, wools, cottons, any other type or any type of fabric that you would be using in your garment or in your project. And we're coming to the end. And you can actually use this stitch prior to constructing your garment, and I have a little exercise here where I actually have a seam already created, and we would do that afterwards. Actually overcast it afterwards. Now, so let's take a look at this stitch. Okay, so there's my stitch, and here's my fabric edge, and it is in case it's a back side, but the stitch is meeting at that fabric edge, giving me that clean finish so that I know once I put that into a garment, my fabric isn't going to ravel, my seam isn't going to curl, and my fabric isn't going to curl inside of that stitch. Now on the wool fabric, what I did was I actually created a seam so you could see how I would do this if I'd already seamed something. Again, you're going to place that fabric edge against that toe, and we're going to stitch. And what I've done is I folded my other seam allowance out of the way so that it's not caught underneath the presser foot. And again, this is a wool fabric, and you can see that it is raveling as I continue to touch it when I was putting my garment together, or possibly as I was cutting it out. And we're coming to the end. And now you can take a look at how that seam finish, and that's going to be just stunning inside of my garment. So you can see that this is one of those great stitches that is just going to make everything that you do look professional and clean.